Hello everyone and welcome to my The Bold Fans channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. According to previews for the week of August 17th to 21st on The Bold and the Beautiful BNB, at least one couple will engage in some sultry behavior behind closed doors. Let's talk about what's coming up on the CBS soap opera BNB, which will also feature some major surprises and fresh starts. After a tumultuous experience in Monaco, Steffy Forrester Finnegan, Jacqueline MacInnes Wood, could reconsider if Sheila Carter, Kimberlin Brown, is deserving of a place in her family. Sheila appears to have the potential to both save Steffy's life and leave her feeling a range of strong emotions. Watch to see if Sheila gets her wish and whether John Finnegan, Tanner Novlin, receives a shock in the process. Steffy might give in and let Sheila have some family visits. If their engagement proceeds, Deacon Sharp, Sean Cannon, and Taylor Hayes, Rebecca Budig, might have some amazing news to share. When Taylor and Deacon get back from Monaco, will they stand in for Steffy and Finn? Will Finn and Steffy also share details of Sheila's bravery in Monaco? Melissa Dillon, Sydney Bullock, will then disregard Katie Logan Spencer's, Heather Tom cautions. Dillon will intensify her efforts because she ostensibly loves Will Spencer, Crew Morrow, and obviously wants to force her way into the affluent Spencer family. Even though Will is still very sad about losing Electra Forrester, Lania Grace, he will acknowledge that Dillon might be able to help him move on. Instead of just dozing off on the couch this time, Dillon and Will might take things to the next level on their upcoming hot night together. Katie and envious Electra won't approve of Will and Dillon stripping down for some intense pleasure. But once Electra blends business with pleasure, she will be distracted. There should be some intimate times after work while Electra works with R.J. Forrester, Brian Nicoletti. With Daphne Rose Walton, Muriel Hilaire, Carter Walton, Lawrence St. Victor, is determined to start a family of his own. Carter won't let the fact that everything might not go precisely as Daphne and Carter had hoped stop them from realizing their dream. Lastly, there might be another confrontation between the sisters when Brooke Logan Forrester, Catherine Kelly Lang, approaches Katie to question her about Fanny Grayson's, LCS Nolt, arrangement with Logan. Stay tuned for some highs and lows during the week of August 17th to 21st, according to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful on CBS. The week at the shimmering seaside paradise of Monaco was filled with romantic reunion, simmering tension, and unexpected danger that would reverberate back to the familiar streets of Los Angeles and well beyond the Mediterranean shores. Steffy Forrester Finnegan had been the first to come, waiting close to the old church that meant so much to both her and Finn, her heart full of hope. The place brought back strong memories of the day he had returned to her life after she had thought he was gone forever. The promise of renewed intimacy after the tensions of recent months was carried by the sea wind as she waited there waiting for their anniversary reunion. But Finn was burdened by a secret. Despite all warnings, Sheila Carter, his biological mother, had accompanied him on the trip. He had challenged her, telling her to avoid Steffy and go home, but he had decided not to make her presence known right away. Even as they started to rekindle their relationship among the splendor of the principality, that decision loomed over their early moments together like an unspoken cloud. Tenderness was the beginning of their stay in Monaco. The romance of the surroundings drew the pair closer as they looked for familiar locations and made new ones. As they strolled along the walkways beside the river, Finn and Steffy talked quietly and allowed the emotional burden of their common past to rise in soft waves. The anniversary was particularly meaningful, and they relished it, reliving the passion of earlier times that had shaped their relationship. However, the tranquility was brittle. Sheila remained in the shadows, as resourceful and resolute as ever. She tried to hide herself by covering her face with a scarf, but fate and Steffy's keen intuition got in the way. The encounter broke out with the intensity of years of pent-up rage and mistrust when Steffy saw her. The invasion of what was supposed to be a private, therapeutic getaway with her spouse infuriated Steffy, who sought explanations. Sheila insisted on her position in Finn's life and, consequently, in the family she had long fought for, defending her existence with a mix of stubbornness and desperation. In a public area with a view of the striking sea and rocks, the dispute intensified. Steffi suddenly found herself in life-threatening peril during the heated confrontation. She was left clutching helplessly as the gap stretched below after a horrible slide or shove near a bridge or raised edge, according to accounts of the incident. Her pleas for assistance pierced the atmosphere. Sheila was the one who heard them and took immediate action. Sheila reached Steffi and dragged her back to safety as she crossed the distance in a burst of unanticipated bravery or calculated redemption. Both women were rattled by the rescue. Steffi faced an unachievable recalibration of her feelings toward the woman she had long viewed as an enemy, still reeling from the near tragedy and the complex source of her deliverance. When Finn found out what had happened, he had to face the twin truths of his mother's meddling and her valiant intervention. In unexpected ways, the experience made the couple consider the limits of family, forgiveness, and protection. As the week went on, the events in Monaco started to cast long shadows over the choices they would have to make when they returned to Los Angeles, where the story of the near disaster and the unexpected rescue would force them to restructure alliances and provide explanations. Steffi and Finn's absence allowed other relationships to grow and change back in Los Angeles. Taylor Hayes and Deacon Sharp had been hanging out more and more. Once uncertain and complicated by previous entanglements, their relationship had developed into something solid and sincere. Deacon found the strength to act decisively on days when there were less distractions and more freedom. He went down on one knee and proposed to Taylor in an intensely vulnerable and hopeful moment. She was totally unprepared for the proposal. Taylor wondered if he was serious as she gazed at him, looking for clarity in his features. With so many ramifications, the question lingered between them. In addition to deciding their relationship's immediate future, her response would trigger a series of reactions from family members who had strong feelings about both of them. If she agreed, the possibility of organizing a wedding would soon arise, bringing with it both happiness and unavoidable tension. Steffi, Finn, and even Sheila would eventually learn of the engagement, resulting in a complicated web of reactions based on loyalty, history, and lingering animosity. Taylor saw Deacon's audacious move as a chance for stability and companionship following her own difficult romantic journey, while Deacon saw it as a fresh start and an opportunity to create something enduring after years of instability. Carter Walton and Daphne, meanwhile, had to have a very intimate and sensitive discussion about their wish to have children. Daphne talked candidly about her physical condition and the upsetting truth that getting pregnant naturally could be challenging or impossible. That information weighed heavily on her, causing her to worry about how it would affect their future together and her identity. Reassuring her that their options were still open and that he was steadfastly committed to starting a family with her, Carter listened to her with calm sympathy. Their conversation shifted to workable solutions, such as the utilization of a donor egg and the potential for in vitro fertilization while still enabling Daphne to bear the pregnancy. Vulnerability and mutual support characterized the discourse, which was both delicate and challenging in equal measure. Determined to find a way for them to build the family they both want, Carter promised to support her at every turn. The prospect of involving a close friend or relative, possibly even Steffi, as a possible egg donor after the Monaco chapter ended lingered as a far-off but significant option in the story's longer arc. For the time being, the pair concentrated on working through the diagnosis together and reaffirming their relationship despite the uncertainties. Elektra gave professional aspirations and creative energies at Forrester Creations a new direction. She had a lot of potential, and R.J. Forrester suggested that she oversee the company's new youth-focused brand. There was a significant potential. It presented Elektra not just as a visionary designer but also as the iconic face and creative force behind a new approach meant to appeal to a younger audience. Additionally, the initiative had strategic significance. It might be a competitive reaction to the changing plans at House of Logan, where Katie and Hope were creating their own projects. Recognizing the opportunity it offered for her advancement both within the family business and in the larger fashion industry, Elektra carefully considered the idea. RJ's ardent and intimate support suggested a strengthening of their mutual respect and cooperation. At a time when the corporation needed to pay attention to both domestic rivals and foreign initiatives, the Youth Line concept gave it fresh life. Eventually, Ridge, Brooke, and others would assess the concept from the perspectives of family relations and company strategy. But for Elektra, it felt like a real chance for more responsibility and acknowledgement. Despite Katie's strong objections, Will and Dylan's friendship in the Spencer sphere grew more intense. Dylan's increasing influence in her son's life continued to be a major source of concern for Katie. She expressed her dissatisfaction after sensing ambition and possible complexity in the young woman's desire. But Will found himself drawn to Dylan's companionship more and more. He reacted to the emotional bond that developed between them, feeling a little alone in the face of familial demands and changing love expectations. The two intimate moments they exchanged hinted at an impending night out or more intimate relationship. There was no denying their chemistry, and Dylan was determined to have a role in Will's destiny. Even as he dealt with the criticism at home, Will seemed eager to pursue the connection further. With every indication of their growing bond, Katie's concerns simply grew more intense. As a young man's need for independence and connection collided with his mother's protectiveness, the friction created the conditions for recurrent family strife. The Spencer household, where goals, allegiances, and individual decisions seldom coincide without conflict, became even more complicated as a result of the dynamic. The various threads started to subtly intertwine as the week went on. The events in Monaco, especially Sheila's saving of Steffi, threatened to change the travelers' emotional terrain when they got back. Given that the lady she hated had saved her life, Steffi would have to make peace with her long-standing animosity. Finn would have to deal with the fallout from his early seclusion as well as the complex thankfulness he owed his mother. Deacon and Taylor's possible engagement would raise fresh concerns about acceptance and fidelity in overlapping social circles in Los Angeles. In the midst of more dramatic events, Carter and Daphne's modest resolve to become parents provided a backdrop of optimism and fortitude. While Will and Dylan's growing participation kept the Spencer family drama alive with new complications, Elektra's career opportunity suggested generational shifts at Forrester Creations. Ever perceptive of the undercurrents in both work and family, Brooke was dragged into discussions that addressed both. The competitive environment between the two fashion businesses was further complicated by conversations with Katie on Fanny Grayson's potential business ties to House of Logan. Concerns over strategy, trust, and the blurred lines separating personal relationships from business goals were highlighted by the potential for entangled professional links. These discussions required Brooke's trademark combination of practicality and emotional intelligence because they took place against the backdrop of her own complex past with the many players involved. Characters struggled with the conflict between the potential for fresh starts and the scars of the past throughout the week. None of the principals had anticipated the re-evaluation that Sheila's actions in Monaco forced. At least momentarily, a life-or-death situation has the ability to change victimization and villainy narratives. Deacon's suggestion was a conscious decision to take control of the future, rather than let past errors define oneself. Carter's unwavering support for Daphne demonstrated a more subdued kind of bravery that is based on teamwork despite emotional and medical uncertainty. Will's receptivity to Dylan demonstrated the constant struggle between personal want and family expectations, while Elektra's opportunity at the young line represented the continuous development of the next generation at Forrester. By the conclusion of the week, a sense of approaching change was the result of all these happenings. It wouldn't be a straightforward return home from Monaco. It would bear the burden of an almost tragic event, an unanticipated show of bravery, and unanswered concerns regarding Sheila's position within the family. Either a new chapter would be established or new hesitation would be introduced by Taylor's answer to Deacon. With cautious hope, Carter and Daphne would keep pursuing parenthood. Elektra would take a more active part in a career that might change her reputation. Additionally, Katie's patience and the strength of familial ties would be put to the test by Will and Dylan's relationship. The week's articles demonstrated the complex web that tied these characters once more. Individual choices made in one area of their lives invariably had an impact on others. A business pitch, a proposal in a quiet Los Angeles room, a rescue on a far-off cliffside, a challenging medical discourse, and a forbidden attraction all added to the greater picture. Viewers saw the characters deal with the difficult realities of love, loyalty, ambition, and redemption as the series went on. Alongside dramatic revelations, new beginnings occurred, and the wild intensity of some nights and confrontations left a lasting impression. The week of August 17th encapsulated the heart of their ongoing story. Relationships were vulnerable to the erratic currents of passion, history, and circumstance, lives lived at high emotional stakes, and every decision had the potential to change trajectories. Steffy Forrester Finnegan stood close to the old chapel where her life had once changed so drastically in the sun-drenched glamour of Monaco. The air was heavy with the smell of salt and pricey perfume. The prospect of their anniversary and the opportunity to rekindle their relationship away from the demands of Los Angeles and Forrester Creations filled her heart as she waited for Finn. She had been looking forward to this personal intermission, although the business talks with Ridge and Brooke in Europe had gone quite well, strengthening international relationships. Due to unfinished business commitments, Finn had postponed his arrival, but the years seemed to vanish as soon as he showed up. A reenactment of a previous, transformative encounter that had once resisted death itself, their reunion was sensitive and intensely emotional. With a newfound sense of intimacy, they strolled the graceful streets, ate in silence while gazing out at the port, and talked about the future. The world outside of Monaco seemed far away for a moment. Steffy saw a familiar person attempting to blend in behind a scarf, shattering that precarious calm. Sheila Carter's infatuation disregarded limits, and she had followed Finn across the ocean. The ensuing altercation was violent and unfiltered. Steffy's voice rose against the Mediterranean air as she demanded answers, her anger flaring. Accusations about family, trust, and the never-ending cycle of intrusion that had shaped so much of their past flew. Finn attempted to mediate between the two women, but the conflict just got worse. Steffy lost her balance in the heat, close to a dangerous overlook. The world was slanted. Her cry sliced throughout the air as she scrambled for a grasp while the plunge yawned below. Sheila did not hesitate to move. With a tight grasp and an unusually determined expression, she pulled Steffy back from the brink in an act that would later be examined from every angle. The rescue was genuine, chaotic, and frantic. The three of them stood in stunned silence as the immediate threat subsided. In Steffy's eyes, gratitude battled with lingering rage. Finn's expression was a complex mix of relief and caution as he gazed at his mother. An uncomfortable recalibration was made necessary by the incident. When they eventually returned to Los Angeles, the tale of the near disaster would spread, appending preconceived notions and sparking uncomfortable discussions about second chances and the boundaries of forgiveness. Sheila's efforts sowed a seed of promise that none of them had anticipated, but they did not erase the past. Los Angeles throbbed with its own undercurrents of change, while Monaco held its drama. In the absence of her daughter and son-in-law, Deacon Sharp had been spending more time with Taylor Hayes. Until the night Deacon down to one knee, their relationship, which was based on a common past and a peaceful understanding, had grown into something neither of them had quite identified. His voice remained calm despite a glimmer of uncertainty on his face as he made the proposal in an unexpected moment of vulnerability. Taylor's first reaction was incredulity. She questioned his sincerity, the timing, and the implications of such a commitment for the two of them as well as the surrounding families. The next discussion, which lasted well into the night, was full of thoughtful candor about previous transgressions, current aspirations, and the practical difficulties of creating a life together at their stage. Her final response was kept secret for a while, but the proposal itself shocked everyone who would finally find out. It is rare for new beginnings to be trouble-free, and this one had the potential to reignite old wounds and redefine friendships. Carter Walton and Daphne had to deal with a different kind of personal confrontation elsewhere in the city. Daphne had previously disclosed the unsettling news of her diagnosis and the medical facts that cast doubt on natural conception. Now, with a mixture of calm anguish and resolve, the two of them sat together and plotted out potential futures. They discussed the potential that Daphne might still be pregnant, in vitro alternatives, and the concept of a donor egg. Carter never wavered in his dedication. He assured her that their relationship and their desire to start a family were more powerful than any one challenge. A private negotiation of love and biology, the conversation was both sensitive and pragmatic. Though the chapter was yet unwritten for the time being, the remote chance that someone close to them might one day offer assistance in a more intimate way lingered in the backdrop of their planning. Their discussions signaled a new beginning characterized by clear-eyed decision-making rather than denial. Professional aspirations were awakened at Forrester Creations. R.J. Forrester made his own proposal to Elektra. It was strategic and inventive rather than sentimental. He thought she was the ideal candidate to lead the new youth-focused line, both as a designer and as the collection's face. As she listened intently, Elektra considered the opportunity in light of the complex dynamics already present in her own life. Visibility, creative autonomy, and the opportunity to establish her own position within the organization were all offered by the project. Additionally, it put Forrester Creations in a position to react more forcefully to competition from House of Logan, where Hope and Katie were still working on their own fashion projects. For the time being, the notion remained a secret spark between RJ and Elektra, a possible new beginning in the boardroom and the design studio, but Ridge, Steffi, and Brooke would ultimately have their ideas. In the meantime, a different form of link became more central to the Spencer family's orbit. Due to the aftermath from past relationships, Will Spencer had been feeling more and more alone and was looking for a stable place to live. Dylan's presence provided a different kind of support, one that was straightforward on the outside but intensely emotional and physical. Their time spent together grew more intimate and prolonged. One evening in particular lasted until the wee hours of the morning, filled with confessions, laughter, and a growing physical intimacy that neither could later deny.